Jared got his BS in chemistry from Long Beach State, PhD in chemistry from Rice University, where he worked on developing carbon-based nanobio immunoconjugates for use in medical applications. He then moved to Berkeley, California, where he worked in the National Center for X-ray Tomography at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. And today he's coming to us from Pasadena City College, where he is a professor for chemistry. His research is now focused on active learning, particularly with remote access to instrumentation like microscopes. And he's really focused on increasing success and engagement for students at K-12 and university level. He also leads the MicroNano Technology Education Center, which is an NSF-funded $7 million consortium bringing together community colleges, four-year colleges or universities, research laboratories, and private corporations, all working in the micro and nanotechnology fields, and more. And today he will talk about the center, but before I let him start, one of the things I really appreciate about Jared, and I feel makes him a role model and just an inspiration, is his commitment to student success. And there's actually a quote that I read somewhere where he says, "If I see an opportunity that looks like I can impact students, I want to do it and figure out a way to support it." And it seems like Jared keeps finding these opportunities and very successfully making them come to life. As an example, I think a year or two ago, you saw an announcement for the Community College Innovation Challenge, a national competition that the American Association of Community Colleges offers in partnership with NSF, and he encourages students to apply, and they won first place. So there you go, one of those examples. And speaking of opportunities, he was also the reason that Sparks got to go to the Mall of America, because he was the one who invited us, which was awesome. Thank you for this. And with this, I'll let you finally start the talk.
Oh, all right. Well, thanks for inviting me, Gabe and Inez. We met in Minnesota, the Mall of America. Actually, strange fact, I was actually raised in New Mexico, like in Kirtland, New Mexico, about 3 hours away, and I would actually drive through Flagstaff every time I went to my grandpa's house. So in a way, this is kind of coming back to where I was raised in sort of my home. So it's great to be here. There's going to be kind of two parts of the talk. I'm going to start by talking about what the Micro Nanotech Education Center is. Like, what is this big NSF Advanced Technological Education Center? What are we trying to do? And then I want to talk about undergraduate research and how we use undergraduate research to promote student success. Oh, that's not good. All right, so basically I have a National Science Foundation Advanced Technological Education Center that's geared to get students jobs directly from community colleges. One of the dirty secrets about community colleges, we can't transfer everybody. Right, like we have 28,000 students at Pasadena City College. We can only transfer about 3,000 to 4,000 a year, right? Like there has to be different outcomes. Like we have to generate different outcomes for students so that they're getting, something tangible after they finish with community colleges. Dirty secret: 67% of students at community colleges in California get no outcomes, right? 67%. Like that's failing in my mind. So one thing that this center does is figure out how can we use technical education to get students jobs? How can we use certificates and associate degree programs to get students jobs? Like how can we use undergraduate research to get students to realize that these jobs exist? Because a lot of students don't realize like what the workforce needs are out there for the United States. Really our center, again, the goal, getting academic and industry mentorship, getting students jobs from community colleges. And, it's a very large center. It's $9 million. We have about 20 different sub-awards on it. We have about 80 different individuals that work on it. And again, we love to add any partners. I'd love to add Northern Arizona. Like in a way, they're sort of our partners, but making it more formalized would be like super awesome. We always want to add more community colleges, research partners to our group. And again, here's sort of like our goal. Like we got high schools, they get to community colleges. There's really a lot of focus on transfer, but here's this path: associate's degrees, certificate degrees, directly to technician jobs, right? My specific area is micro-nano. Like I'm micro-nano because I went to Rice University, and at Rice University, you had to sign your name in blood that says you're going to do nanotechnology for the rest of your life, because that's what Rice University does. Another big component of it is how do we diversify the workforce? Like semiconductor, like let's think of semiconductors, because they're in the news a lot right now, and this is micro nanotech. The semiconductor industry what is it, 10% female participation in that workforce. You know, you're probably looking at less than 10% African American, right? Like, how do we get a more diverse workforce? And community colleges are really the ideal place for this diverse workforce because half of our students are underrepresented students, right? Like 75% of underrepresented students start at community colleges. So to me, that's really like a perfect place to start to try and increase the workforce, diversify the workforce, and focusing a little bit more on technician education while not completely disregarding transfer, right? I don't want to just say, oh, hey, everybody go to technician jobs, underrepresented students go to, no, it's like, maybe you get into that pathway. And if you're doing really, really well, that can get you some experience. Then you can get onto the transfer pathway whenever you're a little bit more ready or like a little bit more experienced. So here's like our 4 objectives with the center. Like we're trying to do a national coordinated approach to micro nanotech education, specifically for technician jobs. We have a lot of professional development opportunities. Again, strategic outreach for diversity, equity, and inclusion. How can we do really, really targeted outreach to make sure that we're getting a more diverse workforce? And then last, probably the most important, how do you develop really strong industry relationships? Like community colleges have to compete with 4-year universities for industry's time. I'm Pasadena City College. I work with MIT and Caltech. Like if I have MIT and Caltech in the same room with an industry in Pasadena City College, who do you think they're going to talk to? Like, I'm not naive. They're going to talk to MIT and Caltech. The only way that we can get them to talk to community colleges is to work as a group, as sort of a national collaborative, in a way, leverage a community versus the individuals that like the MITs and the Caltechs and, you know, Penn States and stuff like that. We've got to work together in order to sort of make this happen. Some of the challenges that we have with our center, curriculum overload. Like, we have so many people that make curriculum for us that we have no idea who's are good, who's are bad. Like, we got to figure out how can we don't want to tell programs what to teach because that's kind of ridiculous, but at least we can give them a resource that here's where the good resources are. Here's a very easily accessible curriculum that you can easily implement into a community college technical education program. How many community college faculty are going to be semiconductor experts? Like, probably not a lot of them. Right? Like, if you're going to be working in the semiconductor field, you're probably going to go work in an industry because you're going to make more money. Like we have chemists, we have physicists, we have engineers that are not experts in that. So if they can't figure out the good curriculum to use, then how's their program going to work? So one of our big initiatives is figuring out how do we make that curriculum more accessible to educators. Lack of qualified community college faculty. Like how many people really want to teach at a community college? I won't lie, it's the best. For the graduate students here, it's the best place in the world to teach, right? Like, I won't lie. Like, you get to work with students. You don't have to do grants. If you want to, you can. Like, I've kind of proved that. Like, if you want to do grants, your school will support you. And if you do it really well, they'll support you really, really well. You know, but most students think, I want to teach at a 4-year university or something like that. Like, it's not stressful. You don't have to publish. You don't even have to do research. You don't have to do grants. You can if you want, but you get to choose to do it. You don't have to do it, right? And you get paid pretty well. Like, I won't lie, California community college teachers are paid very well. It's a really, really nice like track if you want to do it, right? Like, so if you're a grad student or a postdoc, email me and talk. I'll come and talk to you about all the great opportunities of working as a community college faculty member. Because if we're going to fix that problem, we've got to recruit you. Like, we got to recruit at the postdoc graduate student level. We can't wait until they're adjuncts or that first or second or third year that they're teaching, because they're just not going to be able to have the time to then figure out how to do it, right? Low enrollment, that's a huge problem. How do we get students into our program? And then again, unengaged industry with colleges, community colleges, and then our administration not supporting us, right? Like, if I'm not making money for my campus, they're shutting the program down. I can't have 12 students a year in my program, they're shutting the program down. You know, so if I can't get students, kind of game over. I wanted to just, you know, that's overall. So I want to talk about semiconductors right now, because I think that's an area where Northern Arizona is interested in working with MinTech. That's a lot of opportunity. Everyone's kind of heard of the CHIPS Act. Has anyone here not heard of the CHIPS Act? Or know what it is? And the CHIPS Act is $52 billion to support our semiconductor production in the United States. You know, basically the problem is all the semiconductors are made in Taiwan. If China takes over Taiwan, guess what we don't have anymore? We don't have semiconductors. Guess what that means? We lose. right? Like we lose that battle because semiconductors basically run everything, right? So we've got to be able to make semiconductors. They want to bring it back to the US. The problem is that they're throwing it all at us at once. Like after 20 or 30 years of completely ignoring this, they've decided now we need to get it going in 1 year. Like it's really, really daunting. They need, I think it's 5,000 new employees every year, right? Like we do maybe about 500 right now. How do you scale this up to 10 times more? Again, huge problem. We make a lot of chips, a lot of new semiconductor fabs, Columbus, Ohio, Indiana, New York, Arizona, Kansas, New Mexico, Phoenix, like you guys are right in the middle of this. Phoenix, Arizona has Intel and TSMC making the biggest fabs in the US over, I think one of them's almost made and the other one's going to be made pretty soon. How many community colleges are in Phoenix, Arizona, or even the surrounding areas? I mean, they're going to need thousands of workers for that. How do we get those workers into those Phoenix semiconductor fabrication facilities? Here's sort of a map of our semiconductor. This is the industry, right? So here's sort of like our semiconductor industry. I just show this because I want to show you. Here's the map of our community college partnerships. So we have over 40 community colleges that work with our group. It's going to be writing the proposal for the community college incentives part of the CHIPS Act. The nice thing about it is we have community colleges in the entire United States that are in the areas of need, right? Like I would love to add some more in Phoenix or, Flagstaff. I would love to get tribal colleges involved in this. I would love to get more community colleges to participate in this because, we're going to be writing about a $125 million proposal and it's going to be for internships. Like that's it. The proposal is going to be for $20,000 internships just for students at community colleges with faculty mentors that can help them or graduate student mentors. And we're going to need research university partners. And again, the Phoenix area is perfect for this because they've got 2 huge facilities coming online in the next 2 years. We did an industry needs survey. So this is basically comparing PhD level needs versus associate technician level needs. And basically what you see is there's about an equal need for both. And so what this tells me is that we can't just get the technicians. Like again, we're going to focus on technician training with my grant, but at the same time, we need to be aware that how do we get students from community colleges into the 4-year university pipeline for semiconductor education? Preferably maybe getting them early access to research that gets them more engaged and maybe they can get into your guys' graduate programs in some type of semiconductor supporting discipline. And it doesn't have to be like called semiconductor graduate student degree. I mean, electrical engineering, nanotechnology. There's a whole bunch of supporting degrees in semiconductor. Quantum education is a semiconductor enabling discipline. Like every school has something that they could work with us on. Kind of like level of concern. Like you can see here, about 40% of the industry that we connected with said that they're really concerned about technician level degrees, right? Like very, very, very high concern about how do we get technicians into our plants. PhD and master's level wasn't as much, but there's still a lot of concern, right? Like we've got to get 10,000 students probably a year total. Well, some of it's 5,000, 10,000 trained to work in these new fabrication facilities. And we haven't even talked about small and medium-sized companies. Like one of my issues with the conversation going on is they're talking about all of these new fabrication facilities. What about small and medium-sized companies? Like small and medium-sized companies probably have half of the workforce in this field. If we're going to be supplying all these big companies, the workers, where's the medium and small sized companies going to get them from? Right? Like, so the need is, I think, even bigger than what we're expecting. Some of my conclusions from these maps and the data that we got. Community colleges really need to focus on the technical education workforce. One of the things that's been happening over the last 6 months, a lot of 4-year universities are writing workforce development plans and pretty much writing into what community colleges should do. And then the community colleges read them and we're like, no, we don't need to make curriculum. We don't need professional development. NSF already funds all of this stuff. We need just internships. So we need to give community colleges a voice here that says, hey, we know what we're doing for at least workforce development technicians. I'm not going to go to MIT or Caltech with those partners and say, this is how you need to run your research program. Like they would laugh at me and they should laugh at me because I can't run a research program, right? I would hope that they would give us the same respect and say, we know how to run a workforce development program, right? Like we love to work with you, we love to talk, but you do not dictate to us what to do, which is what a lot of the proposals are doing. we need a regionalized approach with a national conversation. And what we mean by that is every region has different semiconductor manufacturing needs. Like Phoenix needs technicians badly because they have these new fabrication facilities. Southern California has 0 semiconductor fabrication facilities, right? Like we're not going to make semiconductors in California because our regulations does not make that industry want to put those plants there, right? It's too expensive to do it in California. It's not green enough for California. So in California, we should really be focusing on the graduate student pipeline because almost all of the semiconductor education and stuff there is on research and prototyping, but it doesn't mean that California couldn't work with Phoenix and maybe PCC or other California schools supply workforce to Phoenix, right? Like there's a narrative out there right now that students won't move. Like students won't move for jobs. I'm like, that sounds stupid. Like if you get a degree and if you're informed about a job that's in Phoenix that pays you $60,000 a year and you just need this 1-year certificate, you don't think students would move? It's not that students won't move, it's that they don't even know these jobs exist, right? Like we don't do a very good job of like promoting our industry or promoting sort of like micro nanotech and semiconductor industry. So another thing that we could really use help with, how do we promote semiconductor manufacturing education or quantum? Like I went by Gabe's and Eames has the most awesome outreach program I've ever seen. Like their outreach, their tent that they bring and their picture with the scientists, like it is the most cool thing I've ever seen. How do we get more programs like that? And programs like that you can do on a continuous basis, right? Like if we go one time to a place that has a little bit of impact, what if we could do that on a weekly basis? What if we can get the K-12 students every week getting an experience like that, or maybe like once a month? Like how do we scale that? Because it's hard because we don't have all the time in the world, right? So how can you scale up outreach programs like that? And then lastly, industry must take an active role in supporting community colleges. And again, what we really need is collaboration, not competition between all of these groups. And I'm going to go through this next part pretty quickly because I don't think it's like as exciting as the undergraduate research component. We have a very large group, American Semiconductor Academy, American Semiconductor Innovation Coalition, and all these people are writing grants. It's a little bit ridiculous because they're all writing the same grant, which I don't understand. It's actually all the same people writing the same grant, which makes no sense. So the American Semiconductor Academy is probably one of the bigger ones. It's ran out of UC Berkeley, Sujai King Liu. She's also the NIST IAC chair. Like that's the big group in the Department of Commerce. It's pretty much going to end up funding all of this stuff. In other words, they're connected, right? So we work with the ASA. They're trying to bring in community colleges, industry, 4-year universities into a very large consortium working together to figure out workforce needs. Again, collective partnerships. Another partner of the SEMI Foundation. The SEMI Foundation, I think they have like 25 semiconductor industries worldwide and about 450 in the United States. And then, so making sure we're working with the semiconductor manufacturing coalitions already. Again, focus on getting industry connections, making a broad, diverse network. I'm not a big fan of the comprehensive STEM curricula that they're trying to. I'm more of a fan of industry looking at our curriculum that we have, right? Can we get industry to look at it and say, hey, this is good curriculum? And again, here's sort of like the ASA coordinated approach, access to clean, that's what community colleges need. Probably Northern Arizona probably could use access to clean rooms. Like how do you get access to clean rooms? Because that's where a lot of the semiconductor manufacturing happens. Government research labs. Notice like this is actually an ASA slide. Notice they don't put community colleges on the slide, right? Like they never, ever put the community colleges on the slide except in like a really, really, really small place, which I've always found, telling. And again, different skills that you need to know, different knowledge that you need to know. Community colleges are not going to be able to teach these specific things, right? Like we're not able to go in there and teach you, hey, this is how you make a semiconductor. Like we can't reproduce Intel's fab or TSMC's fab. We can really do great on soft skills, right? We can do great on safety and stuff. We can give you some basic wafer knowledge and things. So I think that there has to be a discussion with all of these, like what can community colleges do? And then how do we develop a boot camp or something at the end of it that can fill in the gaps of things that we're not able to do just because of resources. Like we can't afford expensive equipment. That's all about the semiconductor partnership and sort of about like what MicroNano Education Center is as a whole. I want to move a little bit though to another program that we have that I hope is a little bit more interesting to people. And that's connecting students, attracting students, and preparing students through undergraduate research. I love undergraduate research. Like, I think everybody should be doing undergraduate research from the time they step on campus somehow. Like, how can we make that happen? I teach chemistry, right? Like, I'm a chemist. I'm not gonna lie to you. General chemistry 1, not the most fun thing, right? Like, especially if you take it from a person that teaches it very, very true. Like at PCC, we have faculty that use fill in the blank labs. Like, seriously, a fill in the blank lab. Like, it's an abomination, right? Like, you cannot do fill in the blank labs of general chemistry. Like, for chemistry, if for any science in college, like, fine, you want to do fill in the blank labs in high school, that's fine. But like, you've got to have some labs that are a little bit more intense than that. And most of our labs at community colleges, like, they're fill in the blank. They're contrived labs. You know what the answer is going to be then. I can do all the labs without doing the labs. So can the students. Most of our labs, because they just have copied the answers and they put them on some website, they can just go and copy them from the website. Like, it's not an effective way of getting students engaged. It's not an effective way of like making it where this is fun, right? So how can we use undergraduate research outside and inside of class? I do course-based undergraduate research experiences in my class. It basically is a way that you give students access to research projects in a class. I'm not going to really talk about that one because we're going to go into our research program. With MinTech, we got a supplement. So anytime you have an NSF grant, I can write a supplement. There was a dear colleague letter. They gave us $1.5 million just to run a research program. It's a national research program. So it's called the MicroNano Technology Collaborative Undergraduate Research Network. We have a whole bunch of community colleges, a whole bunch of four-year universities. And the way it works is all students, every student gets $3,000, right? You get $3,000. Every week, you got to come to a Zoom meeting, and it's kind of like a research meeting. Everybody here has research meetings, right? And we just have people come and give talks. And we're going to try and find really good people to give talks. Like, I tell the people that come and give my talks, like, you can't be terrible. Like, you can't be unengaging. You can't be like a boring professor that's talking at like very, very, very high. These are community college students. They're freshmen and they're sophomores. Most of them have never done research before. Like, they don't know what a qubit is. Like, I don't know what a qubit is. Right. So if someone uses the word qubit in that talk, I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I can't explain it. And they don't know what it is. Right. So we try and get professors that are going to come and be engaging, broad level. This is what research is. And it's worked pretty well. They have to go to that one. Like, every week they got to go to the meeting. And then they get a community college mentor that works with them, hopefully in lab during the year. Right. So now they get sort of this academic year internship research experience. I call it research experience. I'll show you some of our projects. And like going, oh, those are more like research experiences. I don't know, like project-wise, how complex they are, because we're a community college, right? And this is the thing, you can do anything in a community college. It's just going to be a little bit less complex than what you can do in a four-year university, and that's fine. It's about getting students thinking, right? And so the other component of it is that you just have to go to like a summer internship at the end. That we're trying to get a little bit more advanced experiences. We also have remote experiences where students could remotely get with professors at Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, or University of Florida, where it's all simulation based. Like, you don't need to go to those schools if you're writing simulations or code. You can do that all online, right? And so we'll have the PIs meet with the students on a weekly basis, or grad students or postdocs, and just helping them write simulations and code. And so in a way, what we've done is we've developed multiple ways that students can do research. The thing about community college, a lot of them can't move. A lot of them have to make money. Like, they have jobs, they have families, they have a lot of other commitments. So how do you make research more accessible? You give them different opportunities to do it. Here's a remote research. If you want to stay at home and just do all the research at home, great, do it on your computer. You want to just do it at PCC the entire time, stay at PC over the summer, do it there. You want to go to Caltech across the street and do it, hey, well, we're working at Caltech. You want to go visit New Mexico or Princeton or one of these other schools, hey, we'll pay, you can use that money to pay for that travel, right? Like, students can pretty much define what their research experience is going to be. Right. And again, here's some of our students. Paula went to Penn State. We go to University of New Mexico every year and work in their clean room. Esteban was one of my first students. He's going to finish his PhD probably this year. He got an NSF GRFP fellowship, actually, which is awesome. And again, it's getting students early in research so they get more like engagement, more excited. Again, mentoring is a big, big key. We have multiple mentoring options, right? One-on-one mentoring with faculty. So I just come and talk to me. That's actually key. You know how many students? I actually had, it was my first year teaching at PCC, and they had the desk. The tutor desk was outside my office. So I'm in my office, and it was my office hours time. And a student from my class came there. Who do you think she went to? The office hour people, the person doing the SI, the tutoring, or me? Yeah, she went to the tutor. Like, I literally almost started cussing. I'm like, you gotta be effing kidding me. Like, I teach the class. Like, I teach this class and it's my office hours, and you're literally outside my door getting tutoring in my class from a tutor who 50% of the time is going to tell you the wrong answer because they're community college students that literally took this class last year. And I'm not kidding, like half the time the tutors tell them, look, the tutors are great, I love them. Like, they're wonderful for those basic questions. But you have a chance to go to the teacher, it's right next, like, it makes no sense. But that's how students think, because they're scared to death to talk to us teachers. You know, so how can we get them to not being so scared? Research opportunities. Hey, come to my lab. Like, come and see me being normal. Like, I'll wear shorts, I'll, call you by the first name, you can call me by my first, hey, let's develop a relationship. Like, let's develop sort of like a relationship where you feel comfortable talking to me. And that's what research can do, because they get with you, they see you as a normal human being, not as like some high and mighty, really smart professor, which I don't know why they think that about me at all. Group mentoring, getting groups. All my projects are groups, 5, 6 people working on a project in a group. Peer-to-peer mentoring, that to me is the most important. How do we make sure to get near peer mentoring? How can we make sure that we get students from the same cultural backgrounds, supporting the students from their own background? A lot of times, like that near peer mentoring is really, really helpful. Online mentoring, like that's the lovely thing with Zoom. A student can email me and say, hey, I really need to talk. All right, let's hop on Zoom. Really? Like, how hard is that? Like, a lot of people, oh, you can't talk to me on weekends, you can't talk to me on Sundays, you can't talk to me at night. Why not? Like, what's 5 minutes of our time? What's 5 minutes? Right? Like, I mean, all right, if they tried to talk to me for 2 hours, right, that's a little ridiculous. But hey, can we talk email 5 minutes? That's fine. I can get online and talk to you for 5 minutes. You need help with an application, you need help with like an essay, you need help figuring out that's yesterday I had to get on some, you need to have travel to Anchor. Actually, you need help with how do I get travel to Anchor? All right, let's get online. 5 minutes. Like, be willing to give up 5 minutes of your time. Right now, again, if it happens over and over and over again, that's a problem. But be reasonable. Faculty research and industry mentoring, like that's going to be the key for the CHIPS Act. Like, for the CHIPS Act, if we want to get these workers, we've got to get industry mentoring our students. And here's some of the things. We've got our remote research. I actually talked to, I can't remember who was our RAIN network. We actually connect students to SEMs, TEMs, AFMs remotely. There's like 23, 24 schools in the RAIN, ASU's in our RAIN network. So if NAU is interested in getting in the RAIN network, it's just, log on to Zoom, do a share screen with your instruments, and then students can use their instrument remotely. Right? I mean, it's kind of cool if the student can log in and use an SEM remotely. Maybe they even email you whatever they want to look at, and they can look at this stuff remotely. It's pretty easy, cheap, and it's fun. Do in labs, make sure they're presenting, really get them to write summary REUs, trying to get them outside of PCC, and then we take them to industry all the time. And most importantly, like, hopefully it's fun and it's not like terrible. I kind of want to talk about our research, like some of the stuff that we did. I'm going to start like at the beginning. At the beginning, like whenever this happened about 10 years ago, we started it. Like, I wasn't really serious about it. I'm like, all right, we're going to do research, right? And here's some of my early research projects. The to pee or not to pee project. And that was actually the name of the poster, all right? To pee or not to pee. Diuretics of caffeine. It was basically just taking of coffee. It was just basically doing a sublimation of coffee, of caffeine out of coffee and tea, right? Now, again, wasn't a secret. The funny thing is, guess what they used? What was their sublimation device? Who wants to guess what their sublimation device was? Think of the most fun sublimation device that you could use. Dave, you probably know. A bomb. So the students literally brought like 5 different bombs to class, and they decided that they wanted to sublimate the caffeine. But I mean, it smelled really good in that class. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like it smelled wonderful. But like, why would you even think about that? And again, it wasn't me. I didn't tell them, hey, bring a bomb and do to pee or not to. Actually, I think that to pee or not to pee was my idea. But again, it's fun. Like, no one cared. This is fun. I think this one was like rock me like a hurricane poster. This was actually a really fun poster because basically what we did, we were with JPL, and the Mars rover. There's the Mars rover, and it's on Mars. It's analyzing the rocks up there. So that Mars rover analyzes all the rocks. And so what we did, we worked with JPL, Brandon Rodriguez. We just developed this activity, right? The first part of it is, Which one's Mars, the top or the bottom? Who wants to guess? What's Mars, top or bottom? What? Why would you say it's the bottom? There's no blue sky. Great, I told them earlier. Right, like it's not Mars. Like there's no blue sky. I think this looks more like Mars than that one personally. But we have the picture and say, but which one's Mars? Most people actually pick the top because it looks a little bit more alienish to people. And then we just had a bunch of activities, like just do a flame test, do a acid and base test, do a whole bunch of different tests to figure out what is this element in the rock. And we just use limestone, right? And then at the end we did a rain method session. Right, so we could do a rain session where the students could look at the SEM, and then we had an EBS, and they do elemental analysis. Right, so not only do they do the test to figure out what the limestone is, at the end they get to do the elemental analysis, which is going to tell them calcium, carbon, oxygen, and that's going to really verify what it is. And the nice thing about that lab is that one, it's fun. We did it in a lot of high schools, so we went around. I think we did it in 20 or 30 high schools, and we just had a good time. The Rock Me Like a Hurricane was an interesting poster because I actually took it to a conference, and anyone know who sings Rock Me Like a Hurricane? The Scorpions. I've actually one of the only concerts I've been to, the Scorpion concert, but for fun, I put Scorpion songs, like 30 of them, throughout the entire poster. So in like Winds of Change, like I just put it through, and like some people were reading it, like one of my partners, Brandon, was reading, he's like going, Jared, this is ridiculous. I'm like, Brandon, they're all Scorpion songs. At which point he said, wow, that's awesome. And there was actually a lot of people who appreciated the Scorpions Rock Me Like a Hurricane poster. That's the Lighting My Life lab. Like basically like taking and different food, putting, conducting it, making the light bulb glow. The nice thing about it, every single one of these is published by students. So that's a big thing that we do in our class. Like, let's take our work and let's publish it, right? Like there's a Journal of Laboratory Chemical Education. I think they put the word laboratory there. It looks like Journal of Chemical Education, even though it's not. And they basically accept everything. Now, I don't have my students publish like crap. It has to have some substance. But what I do really tell them is, if you get the work done, if you can get data, I will work with you to write a paper, right? And I'm a community college guy. Nobody's going to care what I write, right? No one's going to look at me and say, oh my gosh, that paper is so terrible. And no one's really going to care because I'm a community college guy. But again, you get students writing and you get them published. And any student that's got published, I think we've gotten 50 students published in all like 20 different papers. Almost every single one of those is transferred, and probably 75% of them go to grad school. Like, you don't know how it is important to get that publication to see your name, and like how sort of, what's the word? Like, oh, I can't think of the word. Inspirational it is, I guess, right? So those are our first projects. Now, there was an evolution. I had a student, Vanessa Wolf, and she taught herself statistics, right? Like this was like a serious research project. So we did 5 different labs at the same school, like over, I think it was like a 5 or 6 day sequence, right? She took it and she taught herself the statistics, and she really like did a real science research paper. Like this was published in Research in Science Education. Like that's like a pretty good journal. Like before this, I was really like, I would joke around a lot. Like this is where students, I think, can change faculty perception. Like without this one, I don't know if I'd ever really get serious. But I saw my student being really, really serious teaching. Like I didn't even know what a Boxen whisker plot was before this. Like I did not know what a Wilcoxon match square sine wave test was. Like, I mean, again, she was a genius. I'm not going to lie to you. But this paper really got us thinking, all right, maybe we could do a little bit more serious. Maybe we can move away from to pee to not to pee, or Rock Me Like a Hurricane, to a little bit more serious papers, right? And this was a really, really good paper. And again, I'm going to take no credit for it because Vanessa did all the work. Like I basically didn't put my name on it because I had the funding, but I mean, she was awesome, right? And again, now we keep moving. We had a blue morpho butterfly project. I think this was in like the Journal of Informational Displays. Like it was a pretty good paper. Basically, how do we look at butterfly wings and use them in medicine, right? Like how can we use them as sensors, or like some of the properties of that. We had a data statistical analysis paper. So basically, how can we teach statistics better at community level, really anywhere? Because I think one of the things that we're really, really horrible at in college is teaching real statistics. Like I do a chemistry class, and Like, oh, do standard deviation. Then I ask my students, do you even know what standard deviation means? Like, what exactly is standard deviation? You know, or what is a p-test or a t-test or any of these tests? Like, you know, or are we just making you sort of go through and like doing those calculations by hand? Like at PCC, they still make them do standard deviation calculations by hand. Like, is that really engaging? I don't think so. Like making a student do that thing just because we had to do it, like, the calculator does it just fine. Excel does it great, right? Like how do we teach them to use Excel? How do we teach them like, this is what that means? Like forget about like how we do it. What does it mean? Like what do these statistics mean? Like, we do a horrible job at teaching data analysis and statistics, at least at my community college. You know, so we had a publication that we did there. Here's the current project that we're doing. Well, we have a robotics team, so we're making an underwater robot. And I'm a really, really big fan of, if I can find a competition, I want my students to do it, right? Because it's easy, right? It's like, oh, let's just make a team, let's get a group together, let's build an underwater robot. This is the first year that we did it. There was a new division called the Pioneer Division that they made specifically for new community college cohorts. We got 3rd place out of 3 teams. So it was awesome, but we did get a trophy. We got a trophy. I was able to email the trophy to my president and say, hey, look, we got 3rd place in the MicroNano World Championships. I didn't have to tell them without a 3 teams. Now, there was actually a middle school, high school division that had 30 teams. I think 5 of them didn't even show up for the competition. We would have been 29th place in the middle school, high school competition, right? Now, I was happy with it because they got the thing moving. Like, I was happy because at least they built it and we did it in a very, very short time frame. And they did it without any help because the thing I can't build, right? Like, you had to solder. Who soldered before? Anyone soldered here? Yeah, y'all have soldered. My 14-year-old, she was 13 at the time. She was on our team. Like, so I put my kid on the team. And my daughter's on it and she knew how to solder. I'm like, how the hell did you learn how to solder? Like, they taught her in middle school how to solder. Like, who teaches a middle school student to solder? Right? And then, so she's teaching me to solder. And guess what happened literally within 15 seconds? I burnt myself. Literally within 15 seconds of me picking up that soldering iron, I burnt myself. And guess what I haven't done since? Solder. I'm done soldering. Like, I can't, it's miserable. But like my daughter, like 13-year-old, taught my whole team how to solder. So I was really, really happy because you had to build that thing from scratch. Like they don't give you anything. It's not like it comes with like a built-in rover in it. Like, you had to put the computer chips, you had to solder, I mean, it's everything. And so I was happy they were really getting the water. We were one of only 3 community college teams that actually finished the project. And, you know, again, great job, me, because I get my president happy, 3rd place trophy. Wonderful. The other project is actually really fun. This is actually for my graduate school. In graduate school, I took nanoparticles, specifically fullerenes, and attached them to antibodies. Right, so I took these nanoparticles, fullerenes, for cell-specific drug delivery. Then in a perfect world, we put gadolinium inside that middle of the fullerene, and we could have an awesome contrast agent. Or if we really want to go crazy, we could put astatine in there, like an alpha emitter. And now maybe we could do alpha emitting radiation therapy, cancer therapy. Right? Probably that wouldn't be a great thing to do because alpha emitters would probably kill you. But theoretically, because that fullerene can cage that energy in there, right? Like if you could put an antibody on there, cell-specific drug delivery, get that thing into the cancer cells, time release that acid or whatever radiation you want to put in there, and you only kill the cancer cells, all the healthy cells are great, and cancer therapy is better. Like, I mean, that all sounds wonderful, right? Like I always say, the more complex the experiment sounds, the less likely it's ever going to become a real application. Right now, the nice thing is, like, I was able to get that antibody attached to the fullerene. I like my first paper, and so I've been able to take that to my community college. And so now we do conjugations every single year at my community colleges, because what happens at community college, like we rotate. Like every year, I get new students. Like it's a carousel. All my students that have gotten really, hey, you're actually getting good at this. What do? They're by. Like I literally have 1 year with most of my students. You know, so I end up getting my students like this far, and then they leave me. And I get new students, and we go back to here. And so I keep doing the same project. It's like you've seen Groundhog Day. My research is Groundhog Day, right? Like I basically do the same project over and over and over again. And we usually get just a little bit farther each time. The cool thing with this nano conjugate project, we finally got the conjugates like made, or we can get them. And now we take them to Cal State Northridge and we're doing femtosecond laser studies. So we basically take this femtosecond laser and we shine blue light on these samples. The blue light excites the electrons and then they probe it with this white light. So they probe it up with all the wavelengths. And one of the outcomes that we can see is, you guys know excited state versus ground state, right? We're basically just, how long does it take to get from the excited state back down to the ground state, right? Now, to me, the amazing thing is, this is in picoseconds. Like, how fast is a picosecond? That's really fast. Like, this femtosecond laser can measure, like, here's like 4-9 picoseconds time. And you can see in it, like, conjugated nanoparticles are going to be slightly shorter times in the excited state than the non-conjugated nanoparticles. Like, that's what we found out so far. All right, so we're able to at least do some time studies on how long in the excited state versus the ground state. The other thing that they're trying to do is figure out what's the percentage of electrons that are going to be in the ground state versus the excited state. Yeah, I won't lie, I have no idea how to do any of those calculations, right? Like, this is not my expertise. Like, I am not a femtosecond, I'm not a physical chemist. I do the conjugation. And this is the thing that I think is great, forming partnerships. Forming partnerships with people who aren't experts in something that they can help you do stuff like this, especially for community colleges, because we don't have fancy equipment. We don't have faculty mentors who are the smartest in the history of the world. They can't even solder, right? You know, like, and that's a fact. Like, I don't have the time to sit there and like read literature anymore. Like, I can't go out there and like keep up with like, oh, what's the current research? You know, what's that? The students have to do that. Or I've got to get them like research mentors that can talk to them about that. You know, and I've got to get them like opportunities that they can go and do it. And that's what I love to get, you know, love to get Northern Arizona involved in this research program where we can get partnerships to send students, and not just PCC students, we send students from across the country. You know, we have a lot of relationships in Phoenix, like Rio Salado, Maricopa. So that's our other really big project. I think we're going to actually write a couple of papers on this. I mean, the nice thing is I'm going to get my name on a paper that I don't even know what they're talking about. Like, I'm going to read the paper and be like, I don't get this femtosecond laser thing as much. I think that's another important thing. You don't have to understand everything. So a lot of students think they have to understand every little thing. You know, a lot of times in research, you're gonna, hopefully you got at least a broad understanding. Like, if I had to talk about femtosecond laser, I could. You know, like, I could give you a broad idea of what it is. Specifics, I can't. Right? Like, you don't have to be perfect in everything. You know, I've got students who like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a B in calculus. It's like, well, you're a biology major. That's fine. Like, I got a C in calculus. I did okay. I got a PhD program. I got a C in physics, right? Like, it's okay. You don't have to be perfect all the time. You know, a lot of times as community college students, like, I've got to be perfect every single time. I just had a student that transferred to MIT and like got her first B ever. And she's emailing, Jared, can you Zoom with me? And I'm like, all right, yeah, sure. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling. I got a B. And I'm like, great, awesome. You got a B. Like, you're going to learn something from this, right? Like, what did you learn from getting a B? Well, I learned MIT is a lot harder than PCC, right? I learned that upper division classes are a lot harder than lower division classes. Well, what do you got to do so you don't need a B? If you don't want a B, what do you got to do? Right? Maybe more time, which I don't know how she can. She's crazy, studies like crazy. But yeah, I'm like, Janet, you don't have to be perfect, right? Like, it's okay to get a B. It's okay. As long as you're getting other outcomes, as long as you're getting other things, like, don't stress out. Don't have bad mental health because you have one bad outcome. Yeah, big thing that we do, focus on student outcomes. Like, we got to have student outcomes. We've had about 50 students published. I think, you know, a lot of presentations. We did win the innovation challenge, the community college innovation challenge 2 years ago. The next year we didn't even make the finals. And that has to do with like a great team. And nothing to do with me. I just had like a wonderful, exceptional team. The next year I didn't have a great team. Like, they didn't put all effort into it. Right? Like, I'm not going to be a person who sits there like over and over again and like, oh, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, you got to let students, you know, either fail or succeed on their own a little bit. Like, you can't just be there over them. We've had a bunch of students present on posters on the Hill. We've had 2 Barry Goldwater scholarships. I've actually got 4 that applied this year. And again, encourage students to apply to these things. One of the things that's cool, we actually have a peer-reviewed journal now for my grant, the Journal of Advanced Technological Education. So any student could write a paper. And again, you've got to be some level of, like, it's got to be like not horrible. Like, I don't want people to write horrible. It's like, you've got to have some level of acceptance. The students that want to write for that can do it. We have online learning management systems, like you have this Mintfolio, you can log in, do challenges, it'll show you competencies. You can take those portfolio and email it to industry or school partners, educators. Like you can upload your papers, you can upload your posters. It's like, again, giving students an easy way to show what they've done. Kind of using Canvas as a way to get information to students. Huge part of this educational research evaluation. Like, I am not a fan of people who just do this for fun. Like, it can't just be for fun as faculty. You've got to get data. I'm a data snob. Like, I'm not very good at research, I won't lie. I really like analyzing data. I love whenever people give me data. Like, let me get data, let me make graphs, let me see what it is. And for our program, we really use DEI focus, right? And here's the key to me for DEI. Like, hire African Americans to be your evaluators. Hire African Americans, Latinos, females to be PIs and co-PIs on your grant, right? Like, we've got to put underrepresented faculty in leadership positions. And the leadership positions on the grant, PI, co-PI, evaluator, and like the program coordinator, right? Like, make sure that you're reaching out and asking those faculty to be in those leadership roles, and then get them ready to, hey, you take over the center. Like, I would love for Southern University of Shreveport in Louisiana, which is an HBCU community college, to take over my center. I would love it. I mean, in a second, Katie knows this. Like, he would be an awesome person to take over the center in the future. I think about putting a 7.5 million center in the HBCU. Like, how does that happen a lot? Like, but the only way to do it is if we get faculty in those leadership positions, like that we, in a way, control it first. Because right now I'm the PI. Like, I get to pick who partners are. So making sure that we're reaching out. And so Jalil is our evaluator and educational research kind of expert. He has a team, and so to me, it's like, make sure that we include those faculty that can really focus on DEI and in a way, even do it better than me, right? Like, I have no problem saying Jalil does DEI better than I do. Like, he understands that realm much better and I can learn from him way more than he can learn from me in that area. So again, making sure we have that evaluation, educational research focus. Almost done. I don't even know what time it is. All right, here's an updated midterm model. This is what we're trying to do for the CHIPS Act. We want to scale up. Right now we have 50, 60 students. I want 500 to 1,000. I want 500 to 1,000 students. Again, nationwide, because not all of TCC, that'd be nuts. Students have to participate in the weekly industry group meeting, or we've had those challenges on the Mintfolio that they would do, right? But we would have videos and the research talks pre-recorded and stuff so they could do. Students have to be enrolled in a technical education program. Students would then participate in the summer internship, preferably with industry, but research universities would be great. I mean, with 500 or 1,000 students, we would really have to use everybody. We'd have faculty mentors, so we would have one faculty mentor for 5 students, like ideally, like someone could talk me into, if they had a class of like 20 or something, maybe they could do the class faculty mentor, but ideally one faculty mentor for 5 students, and then make sure to have a robust evaluation educational research program that really focuses on the DEI component. Some of the biggest challenges that we have, like in our realm, research universities and industries typically a lot of times ignore us, or they just put us on that grant for that check mark. Like, oh, hey, community college X is on our grant, that's going to get us a little extra points for the grant. And it doesn't turn into like a really, really active partnership, right? That's why I'm a big fan of community colleges leading and then the 4-year university doing the summer work. It really, really promotes that active participation on both sides. Because I don't want to let community colleges off the hook. They're very, very passive. Community colleges are very, very passive in their role. They're very, very happy to put their name on a grant from, Purdue or Arizona or whatever. Like, they love it. Oh, look, my name's on this grant. My name's in this paper. Oh, I get $5,000. All right, that's enough, right? Like, we've got to get that mentality out of community colleges. And to me, the best way to do that, community college is leading a lot of these proposals, 4-year university getting the summer awards. It really promotes that. Make sure DEI initiatives aren't just thrown in to get grants, right? Like, I think this happens a lot. Like, we hear a lot of, I call it the show. All right, hey, look at this DEI. Yeah, I'm in a group right now, the ASIC, that it just drives me nuts in the meeting. It's like they just throw in DEI talk to throw it in. It doesn't seem like it's really honest. And I don't think that's the right way to go about it. Like, we've got to have a real DEI initiative and follow through on those initiatives. Then again, authentic partnerships with community colleges, with industry, with four-year universities, especially with this CHIPS Act. Like the only way we can succeed with what the CHIPS Act wants is if we get these partnerships in this big national collaborative. There's no way we can get the at least from the community college perspective. All right. Again, this is my NSF grant number, my contact information. If anyone wants to work with us, any community college, NAU faculty wants anything, just email me. Would love to hear any of the materials that we have. If there's a proposal that you have interested in, let me know. And we'd love to work with pretty much anyone. Like I don't think I've ever said no to anyone that calls me and hey, at least have a meeting and at least talk. Right? And to me, that's the key. Like, let's talk. Like, let's get in the room together. Let's have a conversation. And if you're a postdoc or graduate student interested in community college teaching, like email me. Like I can promise you, I'll try and sell it to you as much as I can because we need faculty badly. And with that, are there any questions? Oh my God. What's that? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, should I facilitate? I mean, it looks like a lot of questions. Bill, you want to go first?
No, this is their first.
Oh, I saw them all go up at the same time, so I don't really care, but.
Can we reach out to Intel and TSMC and other jobs to see what they're specifically looking for?
We have emailed them multiple times. Intel and TSMC will talk to Rio Salado, they'll talk to Maricopa. Regionally at the level, there's those conversations going on. Getting them to talk about a national conversation is more challenging. Like I'll email them and they'll see Pasadena City College and they're just gonna ignore it. Yesterday, I was actually in a panel with a Micron executive and actually a congressman. I didn't know it was a panel, but it was a congressman from Massachusetts and President Obama's STEM science advisor was leading it. And I'm like, why am I here? But the cool thing is the Micron guy totally reached out and said, hey, let's get a meeting. And that's what you need. Like I've got to be able to get to them directly. And that's what I got with that panel. So that's why I participate in all the panels and stuff, because at least I can email them. Because otherwise, I'm just Jared Ashcroft, Pasadena City College. Like they're just gonna delete the email. But we've tried. Like small and medium-sized companies, easy. They love working with us. The big-sized companies, much harder.
Next.
Okay, then several things. Number one, just let you know that we discovered looking at the Phoenix Microelectronics Institute. They calculate that for the 5 factories you mentioned, they are going to need 50,000. Now, if you go to a factory, you see that people working inside the factory, they have a very long shift for 3 days or so. But the engineers are outside having good time and big salary, because the salary inside the factory is not much bigger than a good waiter.
That's a problem.
So we are now organizing a course for the people that want to improve. It's going to be in the summer. For people to learn the skills, you mentioned EM, SIMS, XPS, so they can get a digital badge, they call it, so they can know that. So just I will send information, maybe some people that would like to take that. Now, the other problem, I like to hear your opinion. It's tormenting me, and I try to write a proposal. For every engineer that is going to produce, China produces 6. For every business, China produces 20. For every group working in anything here, we have 3 or 4 groups working in China. So if we don't do something, in 10 years, China is going to overcome the United States. I always do I make the example, I'm sorry that I'm not trying to make it simple. If you go to any place in Latin America, half of the market of iPhones, cell phones, is Chinese hardware, which is very, very cheap, very good, and it costs probably one quarter of this country, they are not allowed to sell, they are taking over, and that's just an example. So why the Americans are not likely to go to STEM like the Chinese? Chinese 70% of the students go to STEM. In this country, only 30% do that. And from that 30%, about 75% go to bio, chemical, so, and only 20% go to engineering and so on. And if I see Hispanics, only 20% of Hispanics go to college. From that 20%, only 1% go to engineering. So why do you think that?
Yeah, I think that you've mentioned a whole lot of the challenges that we have. I do think that one, we don't sell engineering well at all in this country. Like we're not the outreach activities that we do are limited. A lot of times they're very specific for one day. They're not like longitudinal, they're not long-term. And, I think that one makes it really hard. Like we're not good salespeople. Like how do we sell STEM better to students, right? Like how do we make it, especially community college students, how do we make it exciting and engaging and interesting? How do we make it so it's not just, here's the gateway classes, and if you can't pass these 3 exams, you're not going to go through, right? Like, especially at community college students, right? I mean, we have a lot of students who start out in STEM. Like we have a lot, like it's like we have a lot of students who start out in STEM and then they're gone within a year, because STEM honestly, it kicks their ass within that first year, and they don't have a network of support, right? There's no network support at community colleges. They're all commuter students, like especially the underrepresented students. African Americans at PCC do not have a network of support in STEM. Latino students do not have a network of support in STEM, right? Like, who is it that's going to be their network of support? Asian students oftentimes have groups of students they work with. Like they work with groups, they work in, and if the thing to me is everybody gets kicked in the butt sometime in STEM, right? Like at some point you're going to get kicked in the face. It's going to be hard. And how do you get through that if you don't have a support system? So how do we develop support systems for all students?
Let me just make a comment. Don't you think it's related according to the way we physics in high schools? Because let me just give you in the whole state of Pasadena, there are only 50 professional physicists teaching in the high school. And most of the time is somebody else, or probably the coach who also teaches this and that. So it really sucks the way the high school teaches physics. So I see my son taking classes in very prestigious high school in Texas, and really sucks. I will never be physics taking that class.
Well, I wouldn't disagree. Most students in high school don't take physics. Like it's not required at the end. Again, bottom, I think there is a lot of challenges. I think there is a lot of things that we could be doing in a collaborative, and having the discussion, like the real discussion with industry and we need to get everybody in the room that's really smart to talk about how we fix it, because that never happens. Like everybody in silos talks about it, but no one ever has this big conversation about what can we really do. But you have a lot of very, very true points, and hopefully that's why we're trying to do this CHIPS Act proposal. We can get, a lot of times I don't like to just throw money at things. Like we need to just throw money at students for this. Like that is going to be the short term here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I have a question. So it's unclear to me whether you're trying to really promote further educational kind of approaches for these students, or whether you're really trying to prep them for more of an industry role. What do you envision? What's the vision?
So I mean, you're right, 100%. Like, and again, the grant that I have with ATE, that is based an industry-focused grant. Like, get the students technician jobs, like get them certificates, get them associate's degrees, and then get them into the workforce. Like that is ATE's mission. So for the mission of my grant, I've got to focus on workforce. Now, while doing that, we can have an undergraduate research program that can, if a student gets into that technological education track and they really engage and they really start loving it, we can easily pivot them into the transfer track. Like we're not trying to discourage them from the transfer track, but this program definitely is focused more on industry jobs than it is sort of the educational, and it's different. Like the math is different, the chemistry is different, everything is a little bit different. Now, both are important, but we are going to be focusing more on the technician.
Well, so you had a broad focus on semiconductor industry. There's, it has a glamorous kind of sound feel to it, but there's a lot of other industries that actually can use the sciences, that would use the sciences, that maybe aren't so glamorous. Are you approaching any of those industries like that through this, or is it specifically semiconductor?
Well, so data shows semiconductor industry is not glamorous at all. Like getting students into the semiconductor industry, like go and talk to them about Google and Amazon and Facebook and SpaceX, like that's glamorous. Talk about TSMC, they don't even know what TSMC is. Talk about Wolfspeed, talk about Ian Laser, like that's working in the clean room even isn't really cool. Anyone working?
Well, let me give you an example if I can. So every time I come up school, I see these Mintos trucks, and they are a janitorial and uniform supply company down in Phoenix who does all the deliveries up here. That doesn't sound all glamorous, compared to a semiconductor, right? From a student standpoint, which sounds better, Intel or?
Well, again,
Bear with me.
yeah, so if you're going to compare those two, then yes, Intel's going to sound better.
But that doesn't mean Mintos doesn't have a need for science majors. They, try to improve their cleaning solution, try to improve their ability to deliver supplies accurately on time. And there's all sorts of science that goes into every industry. Are you kind of approaching any of that?
Yeah, so our micro-nanotech, because nanotech's huge. I mean, we do quantum, we do materials. I mean, we pivoted this year to semiconductors because the need is so great, right? I mean, if we don't get these fabrication facilities up soon, and if Taiwan ever is invaded by China, game over. Like literally game over, because we don't have the capacity to do it. And so because the need is so great, we are focusing on some. Now again, I'm a chemist. I do nanobiotech. I love nanobiotech way more than I love semi. Trust me, I'm not a semi, I hate cleaners. I don't want to work in a cleaner. Right? Like that semiconductors to me is not glamorous at all. And to students, I think again, if you compare it to like the Facebook, SpaceX and stuff, I don't think it's as glamorous. But like that's what we lose a lot of students to is go work at Amazon and coding and doing all this other stuff. The semi foundation is they're the ones that basically students don't go to our field. So yes, we are trying to do, there's 7 different centers right now. There's cybersecurity, biotechnology, advanced manufacturing. There's one in, which one is it? Oh God, the autonomous technology. So there's other centers that focus on other areas. We're the micro-nanotech one. We do a little bit of nanobiotech, but our focus right now is on semiconductors because there's just a huge need. Like 50,000 workers, they say in Phoenix, 50,000 in Kansas. That's why we're pivoting that way.
One more. I know there are more, but let's do one more.
I can smell how you're measuring programs impact on student success after they've gone through it. Like who's to say that you can work with 10 students, have them go into technician jobs, but then within that year they quit and go back to maybe college. Did they actually develop those things right on the job? Or even learn how to do like proper science? It seemed like when you were talking, you kept saying, I don't even know what this is. I don't even know what this is. The faculty are not even, they don't even know what they're doing when they're working with their students or not.
Yeah, I think that it's a matter of what do community colleges teach versus what does industry need to teach versus what does research universities teach. Whenever I say I don't know what this is, like we're talking really, really advanced stuff that aren't needed for those specific jobs. Now, your other question is a great question. What are we doing for evaluation? Like, to be honest, over the last 20 years within NCI, I think they've done a terrible job evaluating. Like long-term evaluation, like how do you know the students going to the job? How do you know they transfer? Like this is one of the hardest things for community colleges. Like you're a community college, students leave after 2 years. How do you keep track of them then? Right? Like how do you keep track of them? That's why in this budget is $1 million for evaluation per year. Right? Like we are going to be putting in $1 million budget for evaluation, student tracking, landscape analysis, like doing basically like, all right, we are going to know where these students go. because that's the only way to do it, right? Like you've got to hire a professional evaluator, educational researcher that can track these students. And that to me is just as important as getting these internships, because for long-term success, we got to have industry take over the payments. And the only way that's going to happen is to show how beneficial it is to them. So, our budget for evaluation and educational research for this is going to be very high because so far, I won't lie, it's been a complete disaster. We don't have the data that you're asking for because it's very, very hard to track students once they leave us. But we can do one more, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I know he's at.
This is a great talk. I'm really passionate about this stuff. I come from a community college. I come from a high school that low income from the ghetto where I never took physics until I was in community college. I didn't know what physics was until 8 years ago, and now I'm a PhD person in physics, got a TRFP grant. So this is really awesome. All the stuff that you're doing, really cool, as well as my question is, how are you trying to, or if we're trying to reach out to like not K through 12, but like high schools in the community college area, because like I said, I didn't know physics was in high school. I was bottom 20 in my class in high school. School wasn't my thing, but I was capable. It just wasn't for me because in my area, in my family, it was either my parents weren't really there. They weren't doing bad things. So there is no person to look up to. There is no people in my family to see, oh, science is a possibility for me. I got that idea from a Netflix show that, oh, I could go to the community college and be an engineer. So the reaching out to high schoolers, I know I'm an outlier right now, but I know there's so many kids like me in my high school. High school is like me in Phoenix and low income places where I grew up, where my homies grew up. They were smart, this is like me, but they just they wanted to settle like how our family had settled, whether it just be doing this 9-to-5 job rather than doing what you are capable of doing in forward. So reaching out to high schools, Rio Salado, American community colleges. I know in my community, like when I think of Rio Salado, that was always an online community college. So reaching out to Maricopa Community College as a whole, my community college professor at Estrella, he's the co-PI and NSF grant for like organization of physics teaching professors at 2-year colleges. So he's awarded physics professor, paid whatever those acronyms were. So he's the reason I'm here. He's the reason that, oh, you like this stuff, you can go to ASU and you will be our trash for physics undergrad. You're gonna go to NA. Oh, you want to go to grad school? Okay, you can do this, do that. I'm gonna help you out. So there's mentors. It's just a matter of being connected with those people when you come from communities like me that is
Well, I
have
think
any idea.
I think that's the key, connections. Like you've got to have connections. And yes, I mean, we are trying to figure out how do we do K through 12 outreach. One of the big initiatives on my grant this year is we've developed a dual enrollment kind of working group. How do you figure out how can we get these nanotech courses in high schools like the senior, junior year? We could get a certificate degree for a senior. Like they could finish at their senior year of high school, and then think of that, they could go directly to work from a senior year of high school, or they get this really cool nanotech certificate, right? Like again, you've got to have connections. We've got to have outcomes. Like, all right, if you're going to be in this program, high school student that loves to watch, I mean, my kids are 14 and 16. All they do is sit on TikTok and the phone. I mean, there's so many other distractions. Like, so how do you win over those distractions? And it takes outreach, like the outreach, like you have here at Northern Arizona with the quantum outreach. It takes going to them, right? You can't say, hey, come to my school. Like you can't tell a high schooler, oh, hey, come to Northern Arizona on this weekend or something. That doesn't work. You got to go to the high schools. You've got to make a presence where they're at and not wait for them to come to you, right? I think that's a key. You've got to be a lot more proactive, like, and not just say, oh, hey, here's this activity, here's a flyer, come and do this, right? Especially for students that sound like you that maybe don't know about it, right? How do we make sure that they do know about it? And it's hard. Like, it's really hard because high schools the in-class time don't really work well with community colleges or research. They're so busy, the teachers have so much expectation. So almost all of it has to be outside of class.
Yeah.
You know, and again, and it takes people like you to do it, right? I mean, who's probably the best people to go to the high school? Like, honestly, if I'm gonna go to an African American, John Muir High School is right next to PCC, it's mostly African American. Should I be the person that goes there and does the talk? Like, honestly, should Jared Ashcroft, chemistry professor, pretty much as wide as he can be, go to John Muir and give a talk to a bunch of African American students, the first time that they see something? Like, is that gonna be engaging? Are they gonna be engaged with that talk? I don't know. Like, I don't think so. You know, how do we get Dave Smith, you know, the African American Black STEM advisor at PCC, to go to those schools and talk to the students? Right? Like, how do you get students, faculty, and how do you recruit those faculty to, you know, that's a problem. You got to get more faculty from underrepresented groups so they see those faculty. Right? Like, I think that we've got to really strategically think about reaching out to students and what's going to be the most engaging thing. Right? Like, one-on-one, I'm great with students, like in a big talk. Right, who's the best person to talk to this student group? But again, I think it comes back to connection. Like, how do you connect people together? And it's really hard. It's really hard.
Well, let's thank our speaker.